Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Need Some Introduction. In today's episode, Sona and I will be discussing DTF St. Louis, episode 6. Is this the 6th episode?
Isn't this only
Fifth,
7 episodes?
I'm sorry, it's 7 total.
Right. I was going to say, if this is 6, that means the season finale the finale is next week, which I don't think is the case. So backing out of it. Yeah.
I got confused because I just wrapped up Paradise today, and that's 8 episodes. So then I was forgetting. This is only a 7 episode, a quick season. But this is episode 5, yes. And it's called Amphezyne, this made-up drug that we find out some of here. And curious if you have...
made up? That's not a real drug?
Well, according to AI and just a general Google search as well, I literally searched for what is Amphezyne, and then they gave me like amphetamine, and then I put quotes around it.
Okay.
And they're like, you're thinking of the made-up drug from the TV show DTF St. Louis. So I'm curious to know why that's the case. But I'll tell you something about the real world analog and how it doesn't really fit this scenario as part of our conversation.
Great.
Also, by the way, I flip these conversations normally because Paradise comes out on Monday morning and DTF St. Louis comes out on Sunday night, and I can record with Sona early. I usually put the DTF episode first, and then that night I put out the Paradise episode. But because of the scheduling situation, I put out a solo episode of Paradise, which is already out there in case anyone's hearing this and looking for that. But Darren and I will also be discussing the finale of Paradise, and that'll be in this episode as well. So check the show notes. If you're not watching DTF, you can just skip to that. Check the show notes. I'll put a timestamp there so you can jump conveniently. Sona, so this episode, how are you? I mean, I think we both were really into last week's episode. I did like this week's episode as well, but I'm curious to get your general opinion of this episode, which again, this series from episode to episode is always doing something different almost in every episode, and a different vibe for me in this show, in this particular episode. So what did you think of this?
Yeah, I agree with you. It was a very different energy. And I think it's because it's like a building block. I think it's building to something that we'll see next week. But it did feel, I don't want to say like a placeholder because things did happen. But like you said, it had a different vibe.
Yeah, for me, the main vibe here is that sadness that I'd seen earlier in the season. And maybe because, and we can save this for speculation, maybe because my interpretation or my suspect, let's call it, has come all the way back to my original tragic plot, given some of the things we see here. Of course, from moment to moment, we see that Carol looks more and more guilty here, correct?
It's not looking good for her, just circumstantially.
For sure. And obviously the show is trying to make us think of her as very much that traditional kind of femme fatale type role. But again, we see that everything in this show over and over again, as if the 2 cops that are investigating this messy throuple now at this point are audience surrogates, and they are being surprised, specifically Homer, or more so Homer, by
the seedy suburbs.
The seedy suburbs, for sure. But also that, he has a very simple read on what is actually happening here. And we have these kind of stereotypes and our expectations. And of course, this show, to its credit, almost every single revelation is not what we actually expected it to be. And therefore, that's part of the reason I'm pretty certain that even though the show very much is making us think that there is going to be a whodunit, and we're going to find out who that is, and of course, Carol, the case is building aggressively against her, that it is nonetheless probably going to be not the payoff we're expecting.
I will say, this is not quite related, but you had mentioned Carol as a femme fatale type character, and it made me think about this actress, Linda Cardellini, and how I have a hard time seeing her as a femme fatale because, despite all the circumstances here, because my familiarity with her is from playing much more of a girl next door or kind of a hippie type of character first Freaks and Geeks. Then she was on ER. Then that Christina Applegate show, Dead to Me, right? So this is a very different type of character that I'm used to seeing her in. Although, was she in that show Bloodline about that crazy family in Florida?
Oh my God, she was in that. That's a good point. Yep.
I think she was darker in that show. I'm having a hard time remembering the plot, but I think
we only made it through one season of that
darker.
show.
I saw it through to the end, and I think that that character had much more darkness than the others did. So maybe I have more exposure to her in that type of role than I had originally thought.
For me, I agree that she hasn't really played this type of role before. And currently she's been in the Marvel universe as Hawkeye's wife. And she's, playing a noble character there as well. Although mostly just a mom, like not a really dynamic character. But still, it's just the fact that this isn't traditionally how we see her ever. Also, she has like that real sweetness to her and that little voice. So she's really not the type of person you would traditionally cast as a femme fatale. Not in a stereotypical way.
Huh. She's Watermelon Breeze.
Watermelon Breeze, that's right. But she's a real go-getter now.
Yeah, a femme fatale wouldn't drink a Watermelon Breeze.
That's for sure. Maybe that's why she had the upper game, right? She had to convince herself with all these self-help audio tapes.
I'm the type that gets a go-getter, not a watermelon.
That's right. You got to convince yourself.
Yeah.
But this episode I found to be really sad. It was really sad because I think that we are all at the audience, or at least the show is wanting us to all fall in love with this Floyd character. And because of that, there is this weight of the, tragic outcome for him. And you see that everybody just can't help but really fall for him in this way. And there's this incredible moment. Well, first of all, we'll get to that incredible moment. But the funniest, maybe there's another one here, but the funniest moment I think is at the very beginning, but even that is undercut by this Bob Dylan song, Forever Young, so you see this very funny, like we've seen this in brief, the Centerfold photos. And now we get to see the whole spread.
Oh my gosh, the whole spread is right. Yes.
Exactly. In this kind of not only is it very funny to see the way he's trying to open a crate and he has his back arched, which is just absolutely hilarious. But at the same time, there is almost like a memorial here that, of course he's died. And this was this younger version of himself, right? Like that song itself, longing for this younger version of themselves. So there's a real sadness to the musical choice, even as we have, like you mentioned before, him with spiders on his back and snakes on his chest and reacting to it in very comedic ways. But
there were just so many of those pictures. They just went on and on.
Yes, I think we haven't seen. I mean, actually, there's a couple that we probably have only seen here for the first time. I do like the fact that where he's trying to read some hieroglyphics or something, but he's laying on his belly, in that kind of stereotypical photo. It's very funny. And maybe that's the last time I laughed at this without any kind of reserve. Oh, actually, maybe the other thing, which is more a subtle joke, which is the fact that yet again, we get to find out what is the accident that led to this. And we see multiple accidents all related to that trip to Chicago, was it?
Oh, yeah. We still haven't gotten to what actually happened.
Still hasn't gotten
which
to the
has got to be either the most insane payoff ever or completely unexpectedly disappointing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be intentionally
so mundane.
Yes, I assume at this point that it has to be, given the fact that we're literally seeing him, a car almost hits him and breaks both of his wrists. And then he's trying to learn how to sign with 2 broken wrists and all this outlandishness. And yet that is not the cause of the trauma.
Hey,
I like when he had the umbrella, he's trying to undo the umbrella with his 2 hands. And you're like, well, this is what led to it. No, that's not it either.
I mean, we haven't seen him be a poor storyteller. So it's very interesting that this is the one story that he can't really seem to wrap up in a normal amount of time.
Hey, when he is signing, he is able to be very efficient communicator.
Get to the point. I will say, though, I thought the funniest moment of this episode was with the 2 detectives in the car.
Oh, that was a lot, right?
Yeah. And it also was a little heartwarming. They were bonding over how crazy Carol is.
I do love the fact that, they find out where the second bike is. And of course, that's the mic drop moment at the end that in the garage, they got the warrant and they find the other bike. And she paid to pick the repair up, even though her husband, of course, being the person that he is, Floyd, that he got into the accident, said he would repair the bike, at least do that after all the financial assistance he got from Clark. And of course, didn't pick up the bike. And now she had to go pick it up. So all of this very in keeping with those characters. But of course, also means that she had access to that bicycle the day of the actual incident.
And now we're kind of working backwards through the episode, but
Right.
the note from the bike shop guy, this lady
Yes.
is intense on my voice.
I love that. That's another very funny moment, by the way, for sure. That not only is he telling the cops in current time that she's very intense, he's writing it down as the moment's actually occurring. This woman is intense. And she is intense. I mean, going back to that great interaction with the bonding of these two intergenerational cops here, that they have this moment of, he's probably saying like, why haven't you done a better job of interviewing her? And like, I'll come with you. And then being like, wow, she's a lot. It's like, yep, she's a lot.
And it was just very human, the way he's saying, she kept asking me to speak up, but you could hear me, couldn't you? I didn't need to speak up.
That thing with the speaking up is so irritating, but it's just so hilarious.
It's bananas. I understand the self-help tape told her to do it, but doesn't she see that it's not landing?
I think it's just, first of all, I think she just heard it in those tapes. And I think she's just using it, not because it's not landing, but as a way that it is just that, right? It is just like a power move, right? Although, like you said, I don't think she's following the letter of the law, but she's not getting the effect that's supposed to happen.
That's what I'm saying. It's supposed to throw people off for a second so that the power shifts, but instead everyone's just screaming at her.
It's pretty funny. And love this actress, Sunday. I forget her first name.
You mean
Joy Sunday? What a great name, Joy Sunday. Who plays Plum in the show.
Gotcha.
But I loved the acting. This just when she's saying "speak up," and Richard Jenkins like looking over at her, and she's like just the subtlest expression going across her face, like kind of like, "I told you."
Now you see.
You see what I was talking about.
They were sitting so close together on the couch too. I found that kind of strange, but that's neither here nor there.
All of it is strange. It's just like, the whole, if she really can't hear them, they are not that far. I mean, that's about as far as you would sit in the living room.
Yeah.
And by the way, you have arranged your living room this way. If these are not close enough, then, that's on you to some extent. But yes, they're like side by side, very side by side on this.
I mean, at this point in adulthood, I think we've all learned to modulate our voice for the distance that we need
Right.
to project it. So even if it was a little further, I think most human beings would adjust accordingly, understanding how far their voice carries. But I meant the two detectives were sitting so close together.
Yes. No, I agree. That they were hip to hip practically.
Like, I would never sit that close to my coworker.
For sure.
I would be on the other side.
Yeah, you'd be on the either end. Like that's always how you sit down, like you're near each armrest, right? You don't sit right in the middle like that.
Yeah, like my body language, like I would direct my knees inward towards the other person. So it's not like I'm trying to get away from them, but I would put the maximum distance possible between the two of us.
I think it's purely so that for the framing of the shot, to be honest,
I
that
was
they
just
make them
thinking
sit that way.
as I said it.
But at the same time, I do wonder if there's more to it, or if we can infer just whatever the intention of the filmmaker is, that there is some closeness to them maybe there as well.
Yeah.
And not only that, they sit in the car like hip to hip all the time. So maybe this is just a comfortable position for them to be in.
I think they're further apart in the car than they are on that couch, but okay.
Probably they at least get that little, their
the
bodies don't touch, right?
area.
Exactly. So early on in the episode, speaking of this, like not understanding what the clues might actually indicate, they're saying, okay, so this is where Plum tells Homer that she suspects that Floyd knew about the relationship. And so that some of the suppositions they were making about Clark's involvement, or even this insurance policy seeming more nefarious than it is, she's just suspicious something is not on the up and up here because they think Floyd knows about it. And this leads them to go and explore, or I should say, it raises the question of this text message saying that what you're doing with Karen.
This also very funny.
With Carol, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. You know what? Now that I'm remembering, this is very funny. Again, very thematically correct that the show is telling us that what we see is not the correct interpretation.
Yeah.
And she's saying, okay, so now he knows about it and they've been friends for a while and everybody's hanging out together. What is this about? And it's saying that like what you did to Carol is really wrong. I need to talk to you about it. And of course, we find out that actually it's like saying you should try it in this position because he's been watching them. Oh, and of course, we should explicitly say that we had a question at the very end of our last week's episode of what does that represent when he's in the closet and like his mouth is open there for a second. And was it shock but it was a little odd because he's like, oh, I think I left something in the room. It seemed like the person he was talking to was familiar with him. And of course, no, this is a routine they have now. And this is very odd, of course, and adds something to the giving aspects of Floyd, this character. And of course, there are people who get off on this type of thing. There's the whole cucking, fetish. But that doesn't seem to be exactly what's happening here because that's where the sadness comes in. At first, I'm like, oh, this is odd. I guess he's trying to maybe just accommodate them or accept this. And maybe there's an element of that where he's just trying to be comfortable with it. But it really feels like what he's saying is earnest, that he wants to see them be happy and that makes him happy. And then on top of that is that over the course of this, and this is where I started feeling really bad for him, is that he starts saying like, hey, maybe we should try to be that again with our own spouses. And that's when I started feeling like, oh, this is not.
Well, but it parallels too that pillow talk from the other week. I think it was last week, where Carol is saying she wants to have sex with Floyd the way she has sex with Jason Bateman's character that I'm blanking out on his name.
Clark. Yeah, Forrest.
Clark, thank you. So they're both feeling that same sentiment.
Yeah, and another really lovely moment that happens in the midst of one of these rendezvous. Oh, just a quick detail before I get to that very important scene. Hilarious that he's like, hey, I know you guys have been going there for a while. How about if I use when I used to be a traveling salesman, I had a discount for that chain of hotel. Let me see if I can ask them for the discount. And not only that, retroactively. So getting them a discount on their, trysts. As long as he gets to watch. But then, of course, during one of these particular rendezvous, through the window, we see something really surreal. Did you ever see that movie, It Follows? Have you ever seen It Follows?
Yes, but not in a long time.
Anyway, when I saw this kid just like walking across the lawn, in a straight line coming in their direction, it made me think about the visual of It Follows. There's a sequel on the way to It Follows, by the way, which definitely deserves a sequel. But it's
a very unsettling movie.
Very.
Yeah.
But it is. But anyway, for a second, I'm like, what is that kid doing? But Floyd jumps out of the closet and he knows exactly what's going on. That kid can't see and maybe can't hear because people are yelling and he can't hear them. And there's this really lovely scene where he runs down there and he's talking to this kid and he knows how to sign holding his hand so that he can feel his finger movements, which is very cool. Something I'd not seen before.
Really interesting. Yes.
And so sweet about him being like, here's how you can get in there. Don't worry. You can walk in on your own. You almost walked into the pool. Be careful. And anyway, this scene broke my heart, not only because he was being so nice and just thinking about this kid not walking with a stick and then almost falling into the pool and minimally, if not a more significant injury, humiliating himself on this day when he's trying to be more independent. And then, of course,
by the way, let me just interject to say, maybe this episode was funnier than we thought because of the whole mood of it. But another comedic moment is him jumping out of the closet, yelling, "Rim job! I gotta go. You guys start without me."
Absolutely. It's like he's trying to help, as if she hasn't, as if there. This is so funny about that. I'm glad you called it out because it is that as if she couldn't have figured it out. Right? He has to assist.
From the first 3 letters, pretty much gave it away. Yeah.
He's just assisting on the way out. He's like, since I broke character, let me just help you out here. Very good. It's true. Very funny. Just a throwaway line as he's running out the door. But then, of course, not only that, he rescues this kid and then they watch him. And again, this is why I feel like Carol's not this femme fatale and that Clark wouldn't have gone through with any kind of string pulling from her. They're looking at him through the window, and she is, Clark, is just kind of like, wow. But Linda Cardellini is just like adoring of him. Like, she's just like, oh, I love that guy, So I just can't imagine that she's just thinking, I'm going to kill that guy for $1 million. I don't buy it.
Fair.
But then we have, if as a counterpoint to that, we obviously see that because that could just be regret that she's feeling there, because you see her in the flashback. I'm going to have to
kill him, but he's a good guy.
He's a good guy. I'm going to feel bad about it afterwards. I got to gird my loins for that eventuality. But you look at the flashback to where he decides, another really touching moment where he's saying, and David Harbour, I think, is giving a really good performance here, I got to say. And for me, the emotional weight of the show is really through him. That's what's working the most.
I get that.
And the flashback episode, when he comes back and he's not gotten the job, and he's like, look what I learned. I just want to show you that I'm good at this. And I learned it just now and I love it. And I want to give back. And it's this thing that he's so enthusiastic about. And she's just like, oh, another financial problem. And you're not helping me get out of the debt that you put us into, which of course is completely understandable.
Yeah, you can see both sides of it for sure.
And the yearning he has, that he's saying like, no, you don't understand. It was like kismet. I saw this because of this freak accident that happened, and it's what I want to do. And of course, that's why she loves him, but they are in true financial distress, and that is not conducive to having a healthy marriage.
They say that financial stress is one of the top issues.
I think it's number one
in unhappy marriages, right? So,
and understandably so.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned that it's possible that one way or the other, whether he did this to himself or he was killed for the money, that credit card debt may very well be the actual cause of death. Although $1 million gets you, it definitely clears their debt. Okay, going all the way back, we're kind of jumping around here in this episode, but I think that's fine. Going to that conversation when they do interrogate Carol, this whole revelation, again, making her look so guilty that she has a sealed court document. And the way she gives herself away here is absolutely hilarious. I know you don't do law in this. I guess it's Chicago law. Is it Chicago? Where was she from before?
Oh, I don't know, actually.
I can't remember now where the sealed document
I think it was Chicago or Illinois, at least.
Illinois, right.
Which is right above.
Right, of course.
Missouri. So.
Right, exactly. So do you know anything about this? Not specifically this law, of course, but anything, how is that handled when there's a sealed, and what does that even mean? So when you have a sealed record, why would your record be sealed if you had a criminal indictment?
Yeah, I don't know much about this because first of all, I don't do criminal practice. And then second, any exposure I have to criminal practice is through the lens of civil litigation. So I don't know if it would work differently among municipal entities, basically. I mean, you see that maybe it doesn't, right? Because of what Detective Plum does at the end here.
Right.
But it's kind of a trick. But usually when I've heard of records being sealed or expunged, it's because it's a juvenile record. And it's the idea that, kids do stupid things sometimes, and they shouldn't be penalized for that for the rest of their lives.
Right.
So you'll have a juvenile record be sealed or expunged so that going forward, they don't have to disclose, in any of the 1,000 forms you fill out in everyday grown-up life, that they had this youthful indiscretion of some sort. So I was kind of surprised that, well, I don't know. We don't know for sure she was an adult when whatever this thing is that happened, right? Maybe it is a juvenile thing.
Right.
But at least at the time, I assumed it was something that happened in her adult life. And I was surprised that as an adult, you could have something sealed or expunged. Like the only way that I could think of it happening for an adult would be if there was like a subsequent finding that it was a wrongful conviction of some sort, then it would be like, okay, we're going to make it like it never happened. But I don't know. I am curious to see what the details of this are.
Yeah, I was curious too. And I was wondering if the incriminating aspect of it the first thing I thought of was, oh, the first husband. What happened with the first husband? And then it comes back again at the very end. We see the other conversation point, or I guess it is a conversation point. It's when they sign to each other, when Floyd signs to Clark that her first husband was a real jerk.
Yes.
And so that again made me think like, oh, is this something related to something that happened with the husband? And to your point, was it like some kind of domestic abuse that she was charged with, but then maybe he was the domestic abuser, like maybe she was protecting herself in some way, or maybe she lashed out because her son was abused or something. And
could be.
If that would be, but of course, if she did something really bad, like in self-defense, and then they'll be like, well, she permanently injured her previous husband as well, right? So that would be obviously very damning. And that may very well be what we see, even though, again, that just means that there's yet another complex aspect to this that we haven't thought of. Oh, we got to circle back to the one thing that, of course, very important from last week, and they closed the loop on it here with literally like 2 words of dialogue, not even a full sentence, where there was multiple folks who reached out to us, and you mentioned it to me too, after we had recorded our conversation, that the actual policy is made out in a woman's name. And I had seen the show, and for whatever reason, I had seen the last name and didn't even look at the full thing. And then you're the one who mentioned, or you texted to me after the email came in, that, oh yeah, there was like a woman's name. So then I went back and grabbed the green screenshot. And my theory to the emailer was, my guess is that this is his mom. Her address is in Canada. So this is probably another way where not only is this under the mom's name, but under her credit card, perhaps, or some bank account. And then that way the money can go from there. And then maybe my theory of it was that if his wife starts asking questions like, where's this money going? It's like, oh, mom, she loves her scratch offs. She loves her scratchies, whatever it would be. But just a way to add a layer of differentiation from him to that account. And like I mentioned, I was waiting for them to pay that off if they would explain it. And it's just in the car, right? The Professor Plum. I've been playing Clue too much with my daughter. Detective Plum says that, oh, you saw who the policy was made out to. And he's like, oh yeah, her mom. I mean, Clark's mom. So it was just like, yeah, just a throwaway line. But yes, that's been confirmed for anybody who was curious about that last week.
Well, I'm happy that it seems like it was a pretty easily tied up plot point. Otherwise, I'd feel really bad for not making time to discuss it last week.
True.
I mean, who knows? Maybe not. Maybe it's going to come back. And
now jumping back to that moment in the car. So this is where, again, maybe I'm hypersensitive to this because I've had this theory that this is some self-harm that Floyd is doing here, or at least some self-neglect. He's saying that he's already taking blood thinners for... Oh, I kept forgetting to bring this up, by the way. On the very first episode of this show, my HBO has ads. So the very first episode I streamed of this show, the first ad they showed was for men who have Peyronies disease.
Yes,
and,
me too.
Did you see it too? And I just thought it was so funny because I'm like, oh, that's so weird that I've never seen an ad for this condition, right? And of course,
that
the first
organization saw a niche and jumped in it. I don't blame them. When will this opportunity arise again?
And it really made me wonder at the moment of like, is this pharmaceutical company looking for this show, like being like, oh, there it is? Or I do wonder if like in HBO, now that they run ads, if they have like a marketing department who's like calling around being like, hey,
you're
we
never
talk about Peyronies disease. This is a perfect opportunity for you to advertise it.
I could not tell you who that advertisement was for, but I do know that 1 in 10 men suffer from it, which is much higher than I would have thought.
And there you go. Yeah, I agreed. I had no idea that was the case. So this is a very real condition. And I don't mean, and I have, by the way, very intentionally not made fun of the condition, even though they make some jokes about it in the show, especially if it's like, hey, if this is 1 in 10 people, it's probably some significant part of our listenership. And if you look at Floyd's situation here, it's probably something that is uncomfortable. They don't talk about. Floyd, of course, leads all conversations with this piece of information when he meets Clark for the first time. But that is
not to do a deep dive into this condition, which I haven't done. So I'm just asking questions. I guess I always assumed that the shape of someone's penis was how they were born and not the result of some outside trauma. Like it could be the result of some outside trauma. But when they're talking about Peyronies disease, I could look this up easily. I just haven't. I wonder if it includes both people who were born that way and people who have had some outside trauma, because then the 1 in 10 number seems to make a lot more sense.
I was curious about it like years ago when I first heard about it. And what I have heard is that it can be from a trauma in this particular case. That seems to be the case. But I had actually always thought of it as it is a condition that can become over time. Like it could be like a tendon that is, shrinking or pulling or something so it can get progressively worse over time.
I see.
It can become more painful or more difficult,
I always thought it was just like any other part of the human body. Different people have different size hands or whatever.
I think it's not a normal, it has to be there's like a certain angle. It's funny, actually. I think that Floyd actually says here that he like defines it and he goes like, it's like a curvature of a greater than a certain degree.
Okay, I forgot that.
So I think that is the definition of it. But I think it could be multiple conditions for that. It could be just you're born with a particular angle that is, could be uncomfortable for different things. But in this particular case, he's on some kind of blood thinner, which I guess relaxes whatever it is, the tendon, or I don't know, whatever is the cause of this. We don't even fully understand what the cause of this was, but that the blood thinner somehow helped with that. Again, I don't know if this is actually correct or not. If anybody does know, let us know. I should actually ask my wife because she probably knows a little bit about this. She knows a little bit of everything. We have been covering the pit here on the podcast, obviously, and she knows about every single condition that comes up on the show. So she probably knows a little bit about this as well.
There you go.
And of course, he's in this Amphezyne thing is odd because this is made up. Like I mentioned, I have not been able to find anything that's actually branded this way. And maybe it is. Maybe that's like a European brand for something, but I have not been able to find anything like this. It seems to be made up. And it's not even like they're saying, well, we're not going to use the word Cialis. We're going to use this because
he is use saying the generic name of the drug.
Right. He says that he is taking erectile dysfunction pills. This is something beyond that, which in this explanation of it is something that could be some kind of enhancer, but you shouldn't take it if you're taking a blood thinner and taking the medications, which also mess with your blood levels, your blood pressure, I should say. So some combination here could be too depressant. I would assume that's what's being described here. But then of course, the fact that he's just like, oh no, it's safe in small doses, but not in higher doses. And that he mentions it first in the car in that initial conversation with Clark. And then all the way at the end, when Linda Cardellini's character, Carol, is not happy about hearing him wanting to, she's very happy, by the way, of hearing that he wants to try again to have a healthy sexual life again together. But even though she seems really open to that, she then gets a little skittish, but like, why is Clark here? And he's like, well, I wanted us to have like a role reversal in a way. And which is odd, like maybe just try the two of you first, but okay, whatever. But more so is reading her face when he's like, well, if I take a little bit, it'll have me be full on. I'll be full on. Which keeps obsession he has.
Right.
But she goes, what if it's too much? And he's like, well, then I die. And he just smiles at her. And she does not like hearing that. It's as if he is, and that's an open question. I think that continues we only have 2 episodes to go.
Well,
yes, go ahead.
You could read it as the wheels are starting to turn in her mind.
Yes.
Right? It could be.
But for him saying that, it feels like, and that's what I was going to say, it does feel like he either will potentially do this to himself. I mean, after all, the drink he brought on the day of when he died, he brought it himself. Someone could have slipped something into it, obviously, when they arrived. He was the one who brought it there, so it could very easily have filled it himself. However, you also have the situation where, he seemed to be working out before he arrived, unless he was trying to drive up his blood pressure with the exercise before he took the medication. I don't know how this fictional medication works at all. So maybe
we can't look it up because it's fictional.
I can't, exactly. I'm like, could we push ups? I don't know. It's all made up. So who knows if it's worse or not. But maybe that was part of his own OD, possibly, if that is the case. But then he invited somebody there to be with him. So all of this is still those are the mysteries that are left basically in the show. And of course, who was there? We still don't know specifically who was there. The house, I should say the bike is at Carol's house. So it could be Emmy. There's one version of the bicycle at Emmy's house. It could be Clark. It could be
speaking of
Carol.
Emmy,
Mhm.
we got to see her face.
And she's playing headbands.
And did you notice who Clark's headband character was?
Oh, umpire. Yes, very funny. I had to rewind a couple of times because I'm like, I know I'm supposed to know what that is. So I have to look back. But then
I interrupted you as you're going through the list of suspects, which is basically everyone that we've seen.
Everyone. Oh, the only other
Not
one.
Not the detectives. That's it.
True. It could be Modern Love too. Who knows?
Who knows?
Oh, you know what? You were saying that, another thing we should touch base on. You had a theory last week that she's obsessed with her name being Love Smyrnich.
Yes.
So there's a couple of things there. You think about the Love Smyrnich, and I sent you the screenshot because you said maybe Modern Love is somehow associated with that maiden name. And I forget the character's name, but it's not Love.
It's not his name, but I haven't given up that there could be some connection. Maybe I'm hoping against hope. But
there could be a connection because what I was going to say is I keep thinking like, what does the love name mean? The love name could be her maiden name,
sure.
Or it could be the previous husband's name, right? That she's hyphenated, right? So it's possible that there's still a connection between her and Modern Love, but his last name is not Love, unless he changed his name, which is possible too. So
yeah, but Love's a great last name. Why would you change that?
True, absolutely true. I mean, even she kept it for whatever reason. I mean, I would assume, we have to assume it's her maiden name.
I would generally assume it's the maiden name, except for the fact that she has a kid. And so maybe the kid has the first husband's last name and she didn't want the kid to feel disconnected from her. So she kept it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's possible.
People get really caught up in the idea of their child having a common last name with the family. Like, I think that's the reason a lot of people choose to change their name or hyphenate or whatever, because they feel like it's important for there to be a unified family name.
But the son's name, he has Smyrnich, right?
Don't feel that way, but I'm sorry?
He took the Smyrnich name, right? Richard, the son is Richard Smyrnich, right?
Is he? I don't know.
Now I have to look.
How would you find out?
IMDb.
Oh, okay. I thought you could pinpoint a place in the episode that they gave his full name.
If they have first and last name on the cast list here. Yes, so this is strange. It's curious. It's Carol Love Smyrnich with a hyphen, and Richard Smyrnich is.
Oh, okay. Then it's not that.
Interesting. And to your point, interesting that he wouldn't have kept the name, but then we don't know what the backstory is with the father.
Because the father was a real jerk, we hear.
So he may have not wanted to preserve the name at all.
Maybe Richard killed the father. Carol helped him cover it up. And that's what's been expunged. I don't know. I'm just spiraling now.
What do you suspect is there's so many details that probably would be unflattering to Clark, but what do you think about the fact that he's called for his lawyer at this moment?
Yeah.
Because he says, if I said any more, it would make Floyd look bad. This is another thing that made me think that Clark has sussed out that Floyd might have done this to himself.
Well, it's hard to say because the whole throuple thing hasn't come out yet in Clark's interactions with the police, right?
Probably not. I did like the fact that the lawyer, speaking of other funny scenes, you know what? I said this episode's not funny, and then I keep remembering.
Right. There were a lot of funny moments, actually.
Now that I'm thinking about it, when he first says to the lawyer first asks him, why did you finally call me? And he says that reason. And he's like, why did you, they should say, what have you said so far? And he's just like, this broken theory of like, well, there was sex apps and robot sex. I was like, how do you thread that together into a theory at all?
I know. And I assume this is not a public defender because they have plenty of money, it seems. But I just thought this lawyer is like, man, I hate this job. She's listening to this. Like, what do you want her to do with that?
he's not elucidating here at all in his comments. And you probably want to be a little more detailed with your lawyer for sure. Speaking about people who are not able to tell a story clearly, neither one of these is very good at it.
Really? Carol's the only one that can get to the point.
For sure. But you have to speak up. Speak up. That's when she gets to the point. Yeah. So I'm still not sure why they have fictionalize this drug just for the purposes of, I guess it's so that it could be some part of the payoff here. But I did want to just mention to you, I'll have a breakdown of some very bizarre parallels with the original story. Mm-hmm. I did finally read the story, the article, the New Yorker article this is based on. And the story is very different from this. And as I was listening to it, I was like, wow, this has like nothing to do with DTF. And it wasn't until I got deep into the article, like when they got to like maybe the last quarter of the article, when in the case, some really bizarre behavior on all the characters' parts started coming out, that I was like, oh, there's a lot of weird stuff that correlates to what happened in this show.
Really? Okay.
So anyway, I'll save that for when we get to the finale. We can do a debrief on all of that. But the one thing I wanted to mention is that the person who was accused, that basically the Clark character was not a weatherman, was a dentist. And the drug that was found in the system of the man who passed away was, oh man, now I kind of forget the name. Versed. I was going to say I forgot the name of this drug, which there's a plot line in the current episode of The Pit about Versed, and we talked about it like a bunch of times. And I'm like, oh my god! And now we're going to forget the name of the drug, but no, it's Versed, which can be. It's a depressant. It acts very quickly. It can be administered intramuscularly, and it makes you have memory loss most of the time. And you can also have like psychedelic visions. So does not map at all one-to-one with this Amphezyne, which once again, I'm not even sure what this is supposed to be, how that would actually work. I assume works on your blood pressure the way that the ED medications do, like so maybe doubling up the effect. Very different than the Amphezyne. The Versed. I specifically asked, like the AI, the Gemini AI, would this possibly have the effect, the Versed that is, of some kind of ED treatment? And it's like, no, this is actually a depressant. It would not help with ED at all. So, but the intriguing aspect about it, where it correlates somewhat with this, is that in small doses, it's completely innocuous. In larger doses, it can be fatal, but only if you have a heart condition. And like, it's like, which makes it seem a really bizarre way you would have to administer this to attempt murder on somebody. This is in the real world case, which once again, I'll get into much more detail here. So I don't want to feel like I'm just teasing the audience. I will definitely get into this in more detail, but it just is one of those exact things, which is like overlapping here, that if you were going to choose to kill somebody this way, the fact that you would give them a massive dose of this, where like 90% of the time it wouldn't kill the person, it seemed to be like almost like accidentally this dose did cause the person to die. And that this would be like the way you were trying to murder somebody. It's like, you probably want something that's going to be a little more definitive in its result, right? So it is it's a mystery in that real world case. If maybe this guy was just doing it recreationally, right? Although giving yourself Versed and blacking out and forgetting that it ever happened, who knows? Maybe it happened multiple times, and then finally one time it killed him. But all things that are unknown in that real world case as well. But anyway, but it does overlap a little bit with the theory here that, and this might be how, even if something nefarious happened, they could get away with it. This seems to be the same type of thing where it's like, well, there's a chance this will kill you at this higher dose. Again, doesn't seem like the best plan for a murder.
Agree.
Unless it happens regularly. That's the other possibility. Until it kills you. So yeah, that's the big, do you have a theory? I mean, if you had to pick one way or the other. Oh, I had two questions that maybe you can give me your thoughts on. One is, if you were going to pick one way or the other, obviously they're really putting a thumb on the scale that there's something really sketchy going on with Carol. And do you think that it's the obvious answer, but it's because it's the real answer and it's really not knowable whether she was or not? Or do you think that this is all like a misdirection? They're making her look really guilty, but it's not going to be the case.
If I had to bet, I would say it's a misdirection. It just seems too easy for it to be Carol. But also, this show seems to like to play with misdirection, with the text, right? That I know what you're doing and it's not right. And it turns out to just be about move your legs to the outside.
Right.
With the heartbreaking scene at the end of last week where you think he's somehow catching Clark and
Right.
Carol from the closet, but in fact, this is the whole thing that they've agreed upon. I mean, these are just the top two examples that are like springing to my head now. I think there are many other examples. So it feels like that's a thing they do. And for that reason, I'm kind of like, oh, it's just another one of the misdirections. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think that this is more of a misdirection, that it doesn't seem to be, that it'd be too obvious at this point. You know, just the fact they're making such an overt case. And this is my second question, that is the fact that I still am hung up on the fact that we have a fourth person in this relationship that is like a non-character. She barely exists in this storyline. Emmy, that is.
Of
and,
course.
you know, we see her a little bit more this week, but it just seems like, what is Clark doing? And it's just very awkward that when Floyd is talking to Clark about, hey, we should try that with our wives again, like try to rekindle things. It's not even like he talks the way that Floyd talks about Carol, like really wanting that to work again. Clark is just kind of like, yeah, I get your point, but there's nothing there. He's not like pining for Emmy in that same way. She's like such a neglected wife and a neglected character by the show. I don't think this is the show being like, oh, they forgot to write her character. Like, I think there's something
That seems
very
bananas.
intentional.
Yeah.
That for them to like have so much empathy for every bizarro character on the show and then like ignore her completely does not.
All she does is play headbands. Yeah.
Right.
String beads. That's really all we've seen of her.
Pretty much. And she raises those girls. So
Yeah.
I think that's it. Anything else we might have missed there along the way? Any other funny moments I might have forgotten?
I feel like we covered everything, although in a remarkably nonlinear way, even for us.
We did.
But I think we hit everything. Yeah.
Did you check out Rooster by chance?
I have not caught up on Rooster. I'm really looking forward to it, but I haven't had a chance yet because what I chose to watch instead was the most recent episode of Imperfect Women.
Oh, yes. Okay. How's that going?
Wow. I mean, this is not a good show.
Okay.
Yet I will continue to watch it.
Do you want to have a spoiler moment on it? Yeah, like anybody out there, by the way, if you're watching Imperfect Women's, plan to, or eventually you can dip out now. But before you dip out, and before you spoil the show, I did want to mention that Sona and I will be discussing the first episode of Your Friends and Neighbors on Friday. Expect that episode. You're on the hook, Sona, whether you haven't agreed to this yet, but
No, of course. I would be insulted if you gave it to somebody else.
No, of course not. And so we'll be talking about it this week. And of course, we just watched James Marsden I just saw James Marsden on a movie with Vince Vaughn that's on Hulu that premiered this week.
Oh.
A comedy, gangster, comedy, rom-com, time travel film.
That's
It's
a
called
lot.
Mike and, oh man, I can't even remember what it's called. It's got 4 names in the title. Mike and Nick and Alice. That's what it's called.
Interesting.
And just played on Hulu. It's fun. It's not great, but it's fun. And I
think that
appreciate
defines
what
a
it's
lot of
trying to
Vince
do.
Vaughn's work.
Yes, he's very funny. And everybody's great in it. It's a love triangle with 2 Vince Vaughns in it because he's time traveling. So there's the OG, him, and the time traveling version of him. And you also have Elza Gonzalez, beautiful as usual, here as the love interest. And James Marsden, also very entertaining. Everybody, the cast is great. You have Keith David's in here, and always great to see him in anything. But it's fun. It's not great, but it's fun. But anyway, James Marsden in that, if you guys want to catch up on that. In Paradise, in flashback, because spoiler for season 1 of Paradise, he dies in the very first episode of season 1, but we see him throughout season 1, and he's still here in flashback in season 2. And now he is a foil for the John Hamm protagonist in Your Friends and Neighbors. So very exciting to see all of that and thrilling. I can't wait to see that show. I think there's a lot of potential there. First season, not perfect, but a lot of potential. And that's primarily what I'm there for. Season 2. Also very popular for us on the podcast, one of our most popular shows. So stay tuned for all of that. We'll be traveling to Florida next week, so we will somehow get these recordings
No
in.
way, me too. Where are you going?
Oh, you will? Oh, wow. We'll be in Sarasota. Where are you?
We will be at Harry Potter World.
Oh, okay. And a few hours away. We can make it work.
I actually don't really know geographically where Sarasota is.
It is like 3 hours away from Orlando, so we can make the.
Okay.
we can meet halfway there. And we will find a way to record. I guess we'll be in a different. Well, we'll be staying with the friends, but I'll have Wi-Fi and I'll have my phone. Maybe we have a very sketchy audio recording about DTF St. Louis next week.
Well, I'm happy it's not the finale, at least.
Yes, I agree. I was, I honestly, I announced this in the previous episode about like how the schedule is going to be crazy. And not only that, but then I probably won't record on time. Like other than that episode, it's just the weekend. We're coming back. So I probably won't record on time. So there's going to be a giant log jam of like DTF is wrapping up. Euphoria is starting. The second episode of Your Friends and Neighbors will be out. So it'd just be like, oh my God, we have like 5 episodes we got to catch up on. The Pit will be wrapping up or very close to the end. Anyway, I almost was going to say, let's just skip the recap next week. But we are so close to the finale, we probably do need to have at least a short episode about it next week.
Well, I will be returning on Thursday. I don't know about you. So
we'll be back on Friday, I think. So we'll figure it out. It out. Even if we like dump 2 episodes on a Saturday or something, we're just going to have to pound them out. And thank you for recording and inconveniencing your dinner. Sona's traveling, by the way, folks. And audio quality sounded fine, even though you're on your headphones.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that because I think last time we tried this, it was not quite as successful. Yeah, I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, which seems lovely, although I am not sure I'm actually going to see any of it besides the hotel that I'm staying in. But good weather. Seems like a nice downtown from what I can see out my window.
Yep, that's beautiful there. I've been there a couple of times and love it. It's a beautiful city. But see if you can try to go for a little walk. If you still get some, I guess the sun's setting right now. So if you get a little bit of light, maybe you go for a little
it's
walk.
Too late for me.
It's too late. Time for bed.
I have an early start tomorrow. So.
All right. Thank you again, Sona. And we'll talk again next week. And and even before then, we're going to talk about Your Friends and Neighbors.
That's right.
Friday as well.
I'm excited.
So am I. All right. Thanks again.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
So Darren and I actually kick off our conversation regarding Paradise. But first, he's caught up on DTF, so has some more commentary on this particular show. So stay tuned for that. If you're only here for the Paradise recap, do check the show notes and jump directly to that conversation. Now I'm going to transition directly into Darren's feedback on the finale of Paradise Season 2. If you want like a scene-by-scene type breakdown thing, I published an episode earlier today for technical reasons that I won't bore everybody with. But if you want to hear more details about it, do listen to that episode. But given we already have this conversation about DTF St. Louis, and actually, Darren, you have caught up on it, so maybe you have some little bit of insight as well. I want to spend this conversation just kind of getting your reaction and asking you a whole bunch of questions and also catching up on other things you might have been watching. So maybe we start with DTF since we just wrapped up that conversation. You're 100% caught up to episode 5. Is that correct?
Caught up with DTF. Yes, definitely DTF for sure. I'm really enjoying that show. It's such a weird show. And it seems like this episode 5 is finally, everything's pointing towards the Linda Cardinelli character as being the murderer or the architect of this whole thing. So I expect the show to pull the rug out from under us again and a twist coming soon. But yeah, enjoying the show a lot. How about yourself?
Yeah, we're enjoying it. I found this episode, honestly, to be very sad, despite the comedy, because I feel like there's a tragedy coming. And I have my own theory, by the way, as to whether this is Linda Cardellini, Carol's character, Carol, is actually the orchestrator here. But I'll leave that. You can catch up on our coverage to hear our theories on it. But I do think there will be a rug pull, as you mentioned, but maybe not what you expect based on our conversations. But this was, I think this is an episode, this most recent episode, where the show basically makes us all fall in love with Floyd. And I think David Harbour, personally, I like him anyway, but I thought that he's doing a really great job of selling the emotional stakes in this episode. I especially liked him saving that kid who almost walked into the pool at one point, and you could see the love in Carol's eye. Whether she's going to kill him or not, she is loving him in that moment.
The guy is just so adorable, isn't he? I mean,
Yeah.
just seeing that kid walking right in the distance in the back of the shot, I was like, oh, something's up here. And yeah, he's just so lovable. I love his signing at the concerts and how she's almost falling in love with him again. I think it's really interesting examination of adults in an adult relationship that are open to like things like sharing your wife or sharing your lover, but doing it in a really mature way. I think it's super interesting, and the parallels with David Harbour's private life,
very interesting,
is also really interesting to look at it through that way. Perhaps in the real world, the adults were not as accommodating to all different factors.
Yeah, honestly, this is actually something that we haven't touched on much in our coverage of the show, but it is a little troubling. As a fan, I am a fan of David Harbour, that you see how it's interesting that he's probably dealing with this, at least subconsciously, with some of these issues, because there's a particular scene in this specific most recent episode where he's in the car and he's talking about like, maybe we need to like not go on the apps and be more honest and try to make this work just with my wife. And you're like, wow, that's, not what was happening in real life. So.
Amazing. But yeah, his choice of partner in real life, she seems like she's a bit of a wild one. So yeah, it didn't work out, but that's okay. We live and we learn, don't we?
Did you listen to her new album? Have you listened to it? I have not listened to the new album yet.
I have not listened to it, but the wife's a fan and she says it's pretty fun. Yeah, it's a pretty woman empowering album. And apparently she's touring at the moment and all she's doing is playing that new album start to finish. And she's got like a support band, like a big band or something, playing all her hits before she comes on. And then she just plays that album straight from start to finish. So yeah, she's an artist with a few different ideas and yeah, why not?
And I don't know, you probably have not been listening to our coverage of DTF, but we'll circle back to this in our conversation about Paradise. But of course, the needle drops are so important in both of those shows. And in the DTF, the first episode, the theme song, of course, is Let the Sunshine In. And all the songs in the early going were all sun related. But then it started becoming like the sun ain't gonna shine anymore by like the Walker Brothers, for example, right? And you started hearing that like there's still sun there, but it's, there's some trouble there. And of course, every episode has been like the Kinks, they had Rain in July. And now this Carole King song this week also about like why, I forget what the title of the song is, but again, about rain. And there's like a Temptation song that was also about the rain again. So there's a lot of storms, a lot of rain, a lot of wind in the titles. But of course, the other big needle drop this episode, which was simultaneously hilarious, like this visuals of this Playgirl spread, very funny. But then the tragedy of, of course, we all pined for that youth, and hearing that Bob Dylan Forever Young was, one of my favorite Dylan songs, by the way. And that's underlining it all, that yes, we were all quite something back when we were young. Youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah, are you thinking about getting some boudoir photography shots taken perhaps for your wife, Victor?
Oh my God, I look like David Harbour with the fat suit on. I don't think I'd pull that off.
Oh my God, the start of that episode last night where it was just every shot of him in that Playgirl magazine, just full front. I was like, what a great start to a show.
The Sona had mentioned in an earlier episode, even before we saw the full spread, but no pun intended, but him with the snakes on his chest is so funny because, of course, Indiana Jones afraid of snakes. But for me, the one of those shots that made me laugh out loud was when he's trying to open the crate and he's got like his butt sticking out and it's like all shiny.
They have someone to oil them up, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, so funny. But yeah, spoiler alert, I think the real architect of this whole murder is got to be the weatherman's wife.
Yes.
Who we rarely
believes the same thing. Yes. Yep. Every person who's emailed us and our ongoing theory, that's not my actual theory, by the way, but there's definitely something big coming with her. The fact that they like basically give her no actual character. She has appeared in like 4 scenes and only like full on face maybe twice in the entire show.
It's so funny. Yeah. So I don't know how many episodes there are to go, but I'm sure there's got to be a standalone episode with her.
For sure. There's going to be all of this happening from her POV, for sure. For sure.
Because she's mentioned a lot of times, and you've got to try to think about their relationship, because this throuple or whatever they are, this threesome, they're so involved with each other, and the minutiae of how they're interacting, and he wants certain sex positions done, and he wants to watch, and then he wants Clark to watch, but
he wants Clark to put his legs on the outside. He's even critiquing the technique.
It's very important to him, isn't it? Yeah, that whether it's the visual or the feeling that he thinks his friend's going to get, the mind boggles. But and nothing is the other wife, Emmy or someone. She's mentioned occasionally. She's mentioned often, actually, but we really know nothing about their relationship. So yeah, I'm fascinated there.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember the first couple of episodes, but we called it out on the podcast that the first time we see her, where he calls out to them, and the girls and Emmy are outside on that sunroom, and they are playing games or whatever. And he's like, "Oh, I've got to go to work," lying about some meeting he has to go to. And they're in there and they're out of focus. So it's like literally out of focus. And then little by little, she got more in focus. And then there was like a moment at the barbecue where Floyd is talking to her, and we see her in like a close up for the very first time. But then after that, and Sona and I had called out like, "Oh, we finally saw her face." And the next episode, she was completely absent. And then the episode after that, she popped her head into the garage last week. And then this episode, again, this is probably like the second time we've seen her actually have multiple lines of dialogue. But after we finally saw her speak to someone for a few lines and have some kind of opinion on something, she literally disappeared 100% from the next episode, and then showed up for one scene in the episode after that. So inevitably, this completely out of focus character, obviously these characters are getting a lot of character development. The writers didn't forget about her. She is forgotten for a reason. And I think that's going to be the payoff at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. I've been catching up with your episodes with Sona every now and again. And yeah, it's interesting the way that you guys are talking about it. I do love Peter Sarsgaard's scene.
Yes.
Modern love scene in his roller disco with the comfy couches set up right in the middle. Look, if I'm interviewed about a murder, I want to be sitting on that couch in a roller disco. I think that's the perfect environment to be grilled and for him to drop some knowledge on these detectives.
Very unconventional places they've questioned all of these suspects, by the way. Not that I guess Modern Love is a suspect, but maybe he is related in some way, but not a suspect yet.
Now, I've just put up the cast on Google. I don't know if this is spoiler alert, but Pedro Pascal is listed in the cast without a character name. So is he going to be in it, or is this a secret? I don't know.
No, so you're not breaking any news. He was originally cast as the David Harbour character, and then he was just such a, he has obviously a very, very busy dance card, so dropped that on this project.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, it just looks a bit weird for him being up there.
I think he was,
and not being in the show.
Yeah, I think he exited very late. Like Harbour came in at the very last minute, and I think Harbour does a great job, by the way. So kudos to him.
I couldn't imagine anyone else in the role, to
Honestly,
be honest.
No. I like Pedro Pascal. I can't picture him doing what Harbour's doing here.
And the weight of Harbour and his body image is very important as well. So whether that's been brought in with him as a producer or I don't know how it would have worked with Pedro. But yeah, okay, interesting.
Okay, anything else you caught up with? I have a few things I caught up with recently that we might want to talk about. Oh, you saw I Swear, which I've been wanting to see, have not seen it yet. Of course, a scandalous occurrence at the BAFTAs related to that film. But what did, not derogatorily referencing the film, it just kind of was in the headlines for that reason. But I've heard this is a very good film. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I never heard of it until this controversy at the BAFTAs where the actual real guy with Tourette's, John Davidson, was shouting out some stuff during the ceremony. I love this film. It is such an amazing film because it shows the tragedy of persons suffering from Tourette's, but it contrasts that with the absolute hilarity of this guy swearing in just crazy places like a courtroom or in front of police or in a library or in a nightclub. It's hilarious.
Or at the BAFTAs.
Or at the BAFTA. I mean, the guy He's a prominent kind of campaigner for Tourette's awareness, and that's why he's so famous. The director has made a couple of documentaries about this guy before, so he's got a great understanding about this guy, and it's just a biopic about his life. The actor's incredible, amazing. You can see why he won the BAFTA over Leo and Timothée Chalamet. This guy is just perfect. And he brings such a level. I mean, like I said, the movie is hilarious. It's also feel good, and it's also quite tragic, thinking about if you raise a son or a daughter with this affliction. It's just heartbreaking. And it comes on through no fault of his own, just randomly when he's about 14 years old, when he's got the world ahead of him. And all of a sudden he gets these tics. And no one knows how to deal with it. And it's very difficult to give this guy love when he can randomly smash you in the face just involuntarily. Love this film. I think it comes out in the US at the end of April. It came out here in Australia last week. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. It'll make you cry. It'll make you laugh. And yeah, beautiful film.
I used to work at a teaching supply store when I was in high school. And one of the teachers who came in to buy supplies had Tourette's. And he would occasionally, he wouldn't swear. He would just kind of, exclaim sounds while he was, just having a conversation with us. But he also had physical tics. And the one I always remembered very prominently, he would try to keep his leg he would kick himself with his leg, but kick backwards, basically kick himself in the butt. I don't mean that as funny as it sounds, but that's basically what he would do. And he would try to control his leg movement. But I always felt really bad for him, even though, we knew him because he would come in on a very regular basis. But I think he taught high school, and I could only imagine what these high school kids, how they must have treated him. But you know what? If you want to do this job, I guess you sign up for that. So yeah, this is very hard. And this film, tries to illustrate this. A very strange thing to bring up with DTF, but another thing that probably is relatively common. I mean, I guess Tourette's is less common than Peyronies disease, which I was surprised to, given that, in the DTF disclaimer that it's about 10% of the population, or a piece of dialogue there. If that is actually true, that, again, something that you don't really see in the mainstream, but bringing it to people's attention. And I swear also this thing that does exist. And I guess, every once in a while you and Karen are people who have this condition to some extent. His is very severe from what we saw, what happened at the BAFTAs, obviously. But usually you just see people maybe having a twitch, maybe, moving involuntarily, or just exclaiming some sound. But, of course, in the most overt ways, you can scream out epithets. You can scream out curse words in the most inopportune times. I remember somebody years and years ago when I would go to church, there was someone who had these, and at the quietest moments would always scream out some exclamation, usually not a dirty word or anything, but just still, it was obviously confusing when you're a kid. So very useful to just expose people to this in the first place. But I've also heard the performance is excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a scene in the film where he meets another Tourette's sufferer. And I think it's the first time either of them have met someone else with the condition. And it's just quite beautiful the way they can interact. They almost talk in their tics, and then they talk as just a general conversation. And it's just brilliantly handled. And you can see that the filmmakers have such a history with this guy, and they know exactly how to portray it. But they don't shy away from how funny it is when you yell out swear words. Oh my God, there's a job interview. So he goes for a job interview, and it is one of the best job interview scenes you've ever seen in any film. It's just hilarious. You could never give this guy a job after this, but you got to see it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. And yeah, it is coming out here very soon. I actually, when you brought it up right now, I thought it was already available to rent here in the US, but yeah, it appears that it has not actually come out yet. So yeah, so perfect timing. If anyone wants to see that, it should be releasing in just about a week or two. So I saw Ready or Not, Here I Come, which hasn't done that well, by the way. So I'm very upset about that because I was really hoping to see Ready or Not, Here I Come, You Can't Hide. Gonna find you. Gonna make that as that would be the 4th, 5th, 6th episode of that. But how were you on the first Ready or Not?
No, haven't seen it. Don't know anything about it
Really?
apart from
Wow. Okay.
the lead actress is the daughter.
So surprised. It's like, I
Yeah.
think she's the cousin actually of this. She's Samara Weaving. I thought you knew Samara Weaving. That's why I asked.
No,
She's kind of a scream queen. She's been in so many horror films.
Yeah. I've only seen her in a couple of things, and she's been fine, but it hasn't really made me seek out all these other niche kind of horror movies. What did you think of the sequel?
Wow, I was so surprised. It's probably not even worth bringing up because I honestly thought you had seen it, given the Australia connection, and also it's pretty popular. This is from Radio Silence, the two guys who, they started off making short films. They made one of the VHS vignettes. Then they were given the Scream franchise, the two rebooted Scream films recently, not the most recent one, but the two previous to it, the very successful ones, which I thought they did a great job with the most recent Scream films. And they got that because of Ready or Not, which is this very scrappy and really fun and very bloody and comedic action film. And once again, if have no familiarity with the previous one, it's not really worth discussing here. I just thought that the second film was, even though this is only the second time around, it was so tired, and everything that was fun about the last one. I'm surprised the reviews have been pretty positive for this, and audience reactions relatively. I felt like the whole idea of the previous film is like where the world is being exposed to you, that there's this game element to it, and like how much of this is actually supernatural, how much of it was just like a crazy family, like you're marrying into a crazy family, and maybe they're just crazy. Maybe there's nothing supernatural going on at all. And the punchline to that, once again, I'm not going to spoil it for you because you haven't seen it, that is really all those things are surprises. And also there's the fun of actually playing a game. This is so much like just more of the same, picking up immediately after the last one. There's no game that gets played. It's just bigger. There's just more kills in it. But it just seems like there was, where the last film had so many surprises as the story's unfolding, this film literally had zero surprises. So for me, it just was a total miss.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'll check out the original then, because that sounds quite interesting.
I think you will like the original. You should definitely check it out. And Samara Weaving, that's really the thing that's made her reputation.
Yes. Yeah. And there's another horror film coming out, or has come out this week, starring Zazie Beetz as well, which looks very similar.
I saw that too. Yes. I saw that too. I saw it at a mystery screening last week. I got to see a movie for free, and I'm like, let me go check it out. I suspected it was this because there's always people who kind of leak it online. So I'm like, I'll go check it out. And I did see this too. It is so similar. They should not have put these movies out 2 weeks apart. The movie was supposed to open around 20 million worldwide. It opened with half of that. It only made less than $10 million. It's not going to do well. And it's unfortunate, by the way, because this is like Ready or Not. It is more fun than the sequel. Maybe not as good as the first film, but very similar. And there are so many surprises in this that I did not expect, and I won't spoil them here. But you kind of watch it, and after the first 15 minutes, you're like, this is very much like Ready or Not. But no, there's quite a few twists here. And what I would actually compare this to is this is like a Tarantino film, basically. It is very much intentionally like the fight scenes in, even with like the, spray of blood every time someone like loses a hand or decapitated, like very much in the style of those old Kung Fu movies. And of course, that Tarantino borrowed that style for Kill Bill Volume 1. And it's very funny that Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, the full massacre edit has just recently been released theatrically because it's a reminder of that style. And it's very much of that. Like, this is where Tarantino was, inspired by those films from the 70s. This is definitely like a homage to Tarantino's style, the most cartoonish version of his style, which he doesn't do quite as much anymore. And it's a blast. It's, there's barely a plot. Mahala's in it, and Zazie Beetz is in it. The great cast, you have Patricia Arquette is in it. So a terrific group of people in it. Very tongue-in-cheek, very violent, but ridiculously over the top in an entertaining way. And Zazie Beetz, by the way, turns out to be like a great action heroine. Like, she is like, doing flips off the ground and very complicated coordinated fights. And it's kind of Ready or Not meets The Raid. Like, she literally has to like bust from one floor to the other to escape this building while she's being hoarded by these and be able to dispatch these people again, there's twists that I won't spoil here, but able to dispatch these people and in very, very bloody ways. And she's just getting more and more caked in gore as the movie progresses. And if that sounds like fun, if that's your style of fun, and what I would basically say is if you're a big fan of Ready or Not 1, even though no one's seeing this movie, go see this. Do not go see Ready or Not. Here I come.
That does sound fun. I am a fan of those types of films. So yeah, that sounds awesome.
And one more thing I just want to briefly mention is there's a movie that just came out on Hulu. This also played, all these films played at South by Southwest, by the way. Ready or Not, Here I Come, and the Zazie Beetz film. And now this film called Mike and Nick and Alice, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And this is with James Marsden, once again.
Nice.
And Vince Vaughn, playing true Vince Vaughn characters. And I'll tell you why. And Elza Gonzalez, beautiful, as usual.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a gangster film where one gangster is trying to kill another. So it's like the one crazy night where the one friend has to kill the other friend. But actually, the reason there's two Vince Vaughns is one of them has traveled back in time to prevent the current version of Vince Vaughn from killing his friend because it's the wrong thing to do. And it's also a rom-com. It's a gangster movie. It's got a lot of comedy. David Keith is in it. Always great to see him. He's like the head boss. And very bloody, a lot of massacring. This is just like a theme this week. And time travel as well. And James Marsden, which overlaps with Paradise. And it's available on Hulu. This is also just of those three films. This is third. Oh, I'm sorry. It's also recommended. Ready or Not, Here I Come is the least. Not quite recommended for me unless you're a big fan of the first one and you just want to see a little more of the same. But this is good, especially because it's like, I would not go see this in the theater, but at, on Hulu, sure, throw it on. And it's very funny. There's a lot of comedy here that works. Vince Vaughn's great. James Marsden, great as usual. And yeah, there's a lot of fun here. And yeah, you want to see a gangster movie with lots of crazy kills and a time loop element to it. Sure. It's fun.
We love our time loops. Yeah, I didn't get any of that from the poster or the title. Gangster, time travel, Vince Vaughn, comedy. Yeah. But yeah, I'm down.
That's why I want to call it out because I feel like no one's going to see this movie because they don't know what it's about. And I'm just like, the audience that should see this movie and would really enjoy it is probably not going to watch it. So I'm doing minor spoilers there. Although the time loop thing is literally revealed within like the first 3 minutes. So not much of a spoiler. So, but yeah, I don't think people know what this is about. And it's going to be one of those Hulu things. It's not like Netflix where it somehow can just, even if they don't advertise it, the algorithm just gets it in front of eyeballs. Hulu movies just die. They buy them and they just die there. I don't know why they even buy them, but it's not bad. It's not bad. That's my recommendation. It's not bad. And I think that there's probably a decent amount of overlap, which people who watch Paradise, who will enjoy that.
Well, that's good. I'll seek that out because, yeah, put not bad on the poster. That's a huge endorsement from Victor. Yeah.
I got to tell you, this whole year, in my head, I'm like my headcanon, I'm like, this has been a really good year of movies. But if you ask me like, hey, what's your review for all of these? I'm like, not bad. We have like 3 months of like, not bad. That's pretty much 3 months of, one movie after another. Like a Primate, not bad.
I think that's why I've temporarily paused my Letterboxd reviewing because I was giving everything 3 stars, 3.5 stars. And I was like, this is not interesting to me. I want 5 stars or 1 star.
You also have that hangover of, end of year where there's all those incredible films that you see and you're catching up with them. And then a bunch of like mildly entertaining stuff comes out and you're like, not bad.
We're talking about mildly entertaining. I remember we were talking about it last week. This Netflix show, Something Very Bad is going to happen. Did you catch up with that? I watched the pilot, yes.
You only watched the pilot? Okay, yeah. Not bad. This is a really interesting one, by the way. This film is equal parts, or a series, I should say, was equal parts really good and really irritating. And it sets you up in one direction. And this is not derogatory. This is actually kind of interesting. It sets you up in one direction of like the whole thing I was touching on earlier with the original Ready or Not. The idea that like you're marrying into this is a big change in your life. Are you sure you want to do this? And is the family evil Satanists or something? Or am I just being paranoid? Am I just not familiar with these people and I'm overreading what I'm seeing here? And that's kind of the first half of the season. And then the second half kind of pivots into something else, which I won't spoil. But it could have, I think, been even more daring and pivoted into something that could be like really romantic and gothic even. And it kind of goes for that, but it doesn't quite get there. Anyway, I was back and forth on so many decisions that are made in it. But overall, I recommend this if you are a fan of horror and specifically that idea, like, that you're inside someone's perspective. They're kind of not 100% on board of whether they should get married or not. And then like playing with your expectations of what you're actually seeing and how you read it. And is something happening or not? And what I'll say is that that does the very annoying thing, which you already saw in the pilot, where they jump ahead to like, oh my God, there's blood everywhere. And then it's like 5 days earlier. It's like, okay, you could, and don't expect a lot of really crazy, bloody kills throughout, although there is some gore here and there. But most of the gore, as you saw in that opening moments, is saved for the very end. And not bad. But it's not bad, but in a way, it's almost like I don't even know exactly how you're going to land on it. Because for me, it's like there were so many times I wanted to quit the show, but then it was doing some really interesting things. So I'm like, I admired the attempt, even though I don't think it's fully successful, but I still would prefer you try than you get Ready or Not 2 and it's just a rehash.
That's interesting. Yeah, I got that sense just from watching the pilot. It's extremely well filmed. It looks like a movie, but they just drop so many like threads in this pilot that you don't know which way the show could go. There's the killer from the guy's childhood custard shop. There's listening to true crime. There's situations that they kind of fall into, and then there's the crazy family at the end. So yeah, I didn't know which way it was going to head, but it looks like it's going to head in all of them and see which one is more interesting to you.
I will only say that they drop most of that for a more clean storyline eventually, but early on it's juggling all those things, which again could feel chaotic. But again, if you read it as this is all just the neuroses of being in the circumstance and no one's listening to me, but something really bad is going to happen. And why isn't anyone listening to me? And being in that, like almost Rosemary's Baby, that tension of, I'm being ignored and everyone just thinks I'm being hysterical, but it's actually happening. And that tension, which can be chaotic, right? Like she might be afraid of 5 things at the same time, but it is too busy. I think there's a cleaner, simpler version of this story that for me, in my taste, would have worked better. But like I said, it's too much. But there's a lot of good stuff in there.
I thought the actress's performance was really great. She's very striking, and I quite enjoyed her character.
Yes.
And also her fiance, he was from The White Lotus, which I didn't recognize. I had to look up. Yeah,
terrible mustache.
I'm not convinced that what happened with the baby in the car. Yeah, I don't believe his story for a second, but. Yeah, I might continue it, but there's so much TV at the moment.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So yeah. We'll see.
So yeah, so much to catch up on and yet more to come. Okay, let's get to the big main event here. Darren, you saw the season finale of Paradise. And what'd you think? How do you feel this as a landing point for the season? How did this work for you?
Yeah, I'm on board. It's better than just okay. I thought it had some great moments, some laugh out loud moments, some emotional moments, which we love getting from Paradise. And I'm always disappointed when it doesn't hit it, but it often does. So yeah, it did give me the feels in certain moments, and I thought it landed pretty good. Like it felt like an ending. It felt like a finale, which I really love. Not sure where it's going to go because Paradise is gone. It's been demolished. So a little bit upset that a show called Paradise has just demolished its main location with a season to go. But yeah, all in all, I was pretty thrilled. Still got questions. I didn't get enough answers and possibly wasn't satisfied with the answers that I got. But yeah, they're just anomalies, right? They're anomalies. Things can happen.
Jane's alive. Jane's still alive.
And Jane, well, she's not in the shower. So whether she gets up and walks or whether the machine has coughed up another anomaly and she wasn't even there in the first place. But she is definitely necessary for the last season, and Sinatra maybe not necessary for the last season. She might be gone.
Yeah. So we're going to spoil everything here, folks, by the way. I assume you guys have watched already because I just want to talk in general about some of these landing points. When Sinatra gets the card from Alex, very funny, by the way, that again, it's like they haven't turned Alex on yet, right? But of course, they will turn Alex on in the future. We actually see Alex turn on for the first time at the very end of the episode, but it activates. And they're saying like, well, it's already doing stuff, right? Because I mean, we know, right? It like literally was communicating with the 90s, right? Like going back to, or the early 2000s, I guess it was, when, or late 90s, I guess it was, right? When Jane was born, sending that message, the instant messenger message to the guy to be like, go to the parking lot and really freak out this mom, okay? And the emotion here, that a lot of this episode is leaning into like all of these reunions, right? Like, and how many of these worked for you. And two things, by the way. One is reunions. We see so many reunions here, but also sacrifice, right? We see that Robinson, even though Jeremy called her like a side piece for her dad, that in the end, she wants him to leave her behind so that he can, live. He wants you to live. And he actually goes and comes back and brings someone back. So it's her sacrifice telling him to leave and leave her behind. And then his sacrifice, risking himself, coming back to rescue him. And, Big Papi, when he goes to like buy them a few more minutes by manually opening the cooling valve, he kills him. He dies there. The scientist who stays at the command trying to get the cooler reactor cooling down again and explodes, and he gets killed as well. And of course, at the very end, right, you have, Xavier, of course, rescuing his family and other folks multiple times throughout here. But the big payoff, of course, is the big sacrifice, Sinatra herself. Do you buy this redemption arc for her that, she gets to save everybody by putting the blast shields back up again? And how did you feel about that?
Sure, I did. Absolutely. The fact that she's got the card, which is the answer to the question they never asked, and it's got the X on it. Mm-hmm. I thought that was fun. So she's handing off the kind of job to save everybody to Xavier, and she sacrifices herself. But I feel like we're still going to see her next season in flashbacks and all sorts of things.
We saw Cal here too, right? So.
Yes, of course. I thought she could have. What am I trying to think? Xavier running towards the doors. I mean, he was never going to make those doors. So the doors have closed, but he gets out somehow. We don't know how. Perhaps that's Alex's doing, because she could have timed that a little bit better. But yeah, Sinatra, she's such a good actor that she goes from reprehensible to almost lovable. She plays it really well, and all through the first and second season, she's kind of flipped. So it's really interesting the way that you're on board with her and then you completely hate her. So yeah, I enjoyed that. The Cal's son Jeremy, less so. I enjoyed Big Papi. I didn't mind him. He was a fun guy. Again, it continues this theme of these people are helping everybody. They're not here to, he's like, this is what we're here for. We're here to shut down reactors. That's our skill, which is a great skill to have at the end of the world, because it's so necessary. But yeah, all you needed to do is just twist one of those valves and it lets the air escape. But unfortunately, he's gone. But yeah. I mean, I enjoyed all those things.
The little bit of a cheat here, by the way, where I'm like, this thing's going to burn down or blow up, this meltdown, this core. And how is Sinatra so cool with all of this? Alex, her baby, pet project is under here. And it's like, no, it's 100 miles away. I'm like, no wonder she seems so disconnected from what's happening at the silo. It's not like she's down in the basement when the alarms start going off. Think about it, 100 miles away, like on a tram, and all the walking to get down there. It must have taken her hours to get out there to like meet with the scientist. Like she couldn't do that with a phone call. And then she comes back on the tram again, like a few hours. I joked on my solo recap. I'm like, I hope she has like, it looks very uncomfortable on that tram. Like hopefully she's got at least some blankets and some pillows, and maybe she loaded a couple of movies onto her iPad when she went down there, because that's quite a long tram ride back from 100 miles away to the other bunker. And she shows up and she's like, so what I missed? What's going on? Oh, everything's melting down. And she seems pretty cool. She's chill. She's just like, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, go ahead. Everything's good. I got it. I got this.
That's so funny. Apparently there's all these urban legends about tunnels and bunkers under Denver Airport. Did you know about that?
Yes. Yeah, I actually researched that. I did not know about that until this episode. And they're definitely leaning into that. But yes, so there's under Denver Airport, they have like an abandoned tram system that has many tunnels. And there is supposedly there was like an automated routing for bags. So there's like a giant cave space under there where all the bags used to go through and get automatically routed using barcodes and things, which is abandoned. So it's just under there, this giant open space that is unused now. So there's all these conspiracy theories like why are there all these train lines under the airport, and why are there, and they believe that it's bunkers for billionaires and such. And maybe that's what I was going to say, where you're like, oh look, Paradise is gone. Maybe they get to the airport next year and it turns out that all the conspiracies are true, and there's another giant bunker system down there for all these people to live in.
Makes sense.
That's Paradise 3.
Makes sense. Yeah, just like Isla Nublar. There's another Jurassic Park island just next to it.
Right. Well, if this one fails, we just go to the next one.
I did enjoy checking out that blue Mustang statue that they call Blucifer. Never heard of this before, but I really enjoyed doing a bit of a deep dive on Blucifer, the statue that actually killed its creator during the making of it. And apparently people are very superstitious about this thing with massive detailed penis and anus, apparently.
Really? Oh my goodness.
It's a very lifelike, Mustang statue that has a lot of nefarious, superstitions about it.
What did you think about, Alex, this technology that is some kind of quantum computer? Do you want to parse? Let's talk about that first, but then I want to know if you want to actually try to parse the timeline that would allow Link/Dylan to be alive and not recognize his mother.
Look, I've tried to think about it, but the way the show they're just anomalies. So I just went with what the show says. I have not tried to link it with Link. I don't know. Do you have a theory about this?
Oh, I don't. I'm baffled by it because
Completely
I assume
Good.
What it seems to be is that we're seeing like the collapse of multiple quantum states theoretically down to one finite point, and that somehow Alex can control this. But that's not my I mean, that's pseudoscience anyway, but that's not the confusion I have, is that let's say that, for example, there is a version of Dylan who doesn't die of this disease, or it gets cured in some alternate universe, or he never got sick. Then that version of Dylan would be barely different. Like, for example, if we are actually seeing that different versions of Xavier are like merging together during those nosebleed moments, then these have to be like tiny, subtle differences where you actually see Dr. Miller at the beginning saying that we started noticing that, for example, objects would move inside the room, right? So you can imagine that, like this version of me got cranberry juice and this version of me got orange juice. And then all of a sudden, everything collapses down and it's orange juice. And you're like, wait a second, that was supposed to be cranberry juice, right? So there's some minor variation, but you have to be like in the room with a different juice in your hand at that time. So it's, so my point is that like what variation of Dylan would be obviously not born from a different mother and died or survived as a teenager. So if this kid either survived his whole entire childhood, he would have obviously known that Sinatra is his mom, even if like, let's say the government kidnapped him at the age of 6 and cured his disease somehow. And then that's merged into this timeline. The simple fact is like he would still have recognized Sinatra at some point in his life, Anyway, they have a lot of explaining to do here.
I'm not going to hold my breath that they're going to explain all this at all.
They better not just yada yada that you can't have like the biggest reveal of the whole entire show be just hand waved away. You can't. Although I have that concern. I do have that concern.
Yeah, I've definitely got that concern. And I think they can definitely do that because we haven't got that whole flashback episode with Link yet. Maybe they're saving it for season 3, surely. But yeah, we got a few more nosebleeds this episode and Xavier is all glitching out. And one of the reunions that I did enjoy was Link rescuing his baby sister from the lift. He didn't really know it, but that kind of thing got me. I quite enjoyed that.
The funniest part about that whole thing is when he gets the nosebleed, of course, and they get matching nosebleeds, him and Xavier at that point. they hit matching nosebleeds. But I was saying that like, we don't even know if that nosebleed is caused by this quantum entanglement thing or this quantum collapse, because they're like, I'm your mother. That's your sister. And he's just like, oh my God, my brain, I'm getting a note. He got a hemorrhage just from absorbing all the knowledge at once.
It all came to him pretty quick, didn't he?
Yeah, that is pretty cool, though, that he's rescued his sister unknowingly. And of course, another very sweet reunion is him being reunited with his baby for the first time, or I guess not reunited, but united with his baby.
So lovely. Of course, they call the baby Annie. Yeah, that was really nice. Yeah. There's nothing like holding a fairly newborn baby, is there?
How funny is it that James, gets to speak for the first time in this episode? There was one time we saw him having breakfast, like the back of his head. This poor actor finally gets used, and he basically is like calling out for help at one point, and then he's like, "Mom!" That's this poor guy. That's all he got to do this whole entire season.
Yeah. That reunion didn't do much for me at all. I don't keep that guy much to do.
Well, when the kid gets like 2 lines of dialogue for the entire year.
Yeah. And he's just wandering around in the middle of paradise, and she just sees him straight away. I'm
going to sit in the gazebo so I can get a better view and get to see, there's only tens of thousands of people. I'm sure I'll see.
But possibly my favorite reunion, and as to how awkward it was, Xavier and his therapist were in front of his wife.
Yes. Okay. Funniest laugh line in this whole entire show, maybe this whole entire season, and I'm pretty sure it's unintentional, is when Sinatra is so surprised to see Xavier back. And it's kind of sweet, by the way, to her being like, oh my God, you actually made it. Again, Nicholson's performance is very good. And she really pulls that off. But that's not the laugh line. The laugh line is she's saying, Xavier, you knew you were the only truly decent person down here, not my husband or my daughter. Those people are not decent at all. But you, the only truly decent person now. Way to throw your kids under the bus. By the way, she arrives, not the mother of the year here. And I will accept this by the fact that she is in some kind of weird AI delusion here that the world's already been fixed. So it doesn't matter if we all die because Xavier is going to solve everything. By the way, I can close the blast shields and Xavier's still trying to run out in time. She hasn't timed it. She doesn't know how fast he can actually run. She doesn't know if he has a limp, but she's just like, he's going to make it out because he already has made it out. So, and maybe she's right about that. But
and that is fun. That's fun to think about with time travel. That it already happens. It's already happened. So yeah, that's great. And the way that she figures out that X is Xavier, that's fun too.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's so on the nose here, by the way, where they're like, "What's your dad's name again?" Xavier. They call him X. He's like, X, Xavier. And she's like, oh, X. User X, of course.
It is a bit on the nose, but I liked it.
Also, I love the fact that Alex is, this all-seeing computer and is like, I'm going to give this to her. I'm not going to give her a lot of context here. She'll figure it out. I've seen like all permutations of the future. She figures it out. Trust me, she's smart. Just when I need her to get it, she'll figure it out.
Exactly. Yes. She doesn't need to understand until that moment.
What do you think about her? Oh, a couple of things I thought were kind of cool. One is her strolling around paradise, going in front of that shop again. And we're seeing some kind of bookending here that in episode 2, when she has the flashback, I rewatched the Sinatra episode because I wanted to see if I can get any clues for Dylan's age and when he died, because that was kind of unclear to me. Not unclear, but I had forgotten a lot of those details. And so I rewatched that episode, but she is in front of that window and seeing the rocking horse. And that is what triggers her flashback to her son in that particular episode. And of course, she sees it again and she holds the son's hand there. So there's another reunion we have. But another cool bookend that I thought was really well done is, of course, in the very first episode, or I guess it's the second episode, after we find out that, well, first, it's the first and second episode. In the very first episode of the entire show, we see Xavier running around the jogging through paradise. And that's how we get introduced to this place, paradise. And we don't realize yet what the twist is. And then in the second episode, when he goes for a jog again, because he jogs like in all those early episodes, that we see that the ducks are fake and all these kind of things like, aha, now I see the falseness of this world. And I liked seeing him sprinting through now for a completely different reason, not for exercise, but to get the hell out of there. And he's running through all those same locations, and you see the ducks and everything. And you're like, this is like the last day of Paradise, right?
Yeah, those ducks didn't look too healthy, did they? They were all bunched together. The program's gone.
And of course, we hear, apropos, we get also at the end the Another Day for You and Me, or the last day, I guess.
That's one of the best covers.
You have to do, got to bookend it back to the beginning, which really, like to your point, feels like you could say, well, I mean, obviously it's the end of Paradise proper. So it does have that finality that this could be an end of a season, end of the show. But of course it can't, because there's this the whole entire season has been setting up what is Alex. And of course they didn't tell us really what Alex was. They vaguely told us what it was. And of course I also, enough. Yeah, exactly. And I also didn't even foresee this. I actually thought we would get to the end and something cataclysmic was happening in Paradise, and Sinatra was going to be with Alex, and they're going to be walking down this hallway. It's going to be Link, and basically the image, the vision that Xavier keeps seeing over and over again will pay off in the final moments of the season. And that'll be the cliffhanger. And they don't even give us that. They're like, oh, that doesn't even happen until season 3. Like, okay, all right.
Yeah, that was a bit disappointing, wasn't it? But season 3 is going to be, a big mission to this other bunker, you'd think, to deal with Alex. But I don't know how they're going to bring in all these characters they've set up and where everybody's going to go now that there's no Paradise, man. They create their own little Paradise situation. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, are we going to have to wait? We only waited a year for the last season. So do we only have to wait another year? That's fairly doable, I think.
They're currently shooting. So we will get it in a year for sure. They're shooting from March through August. And then post-production, I'm sure by February or March, they'll hit their 1-year timeline again.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's great. They can do 3 seasons in 3 years. That's very economical.
Yeah, I agree. And it keeps people engaged, because by the time people all get caught up, it seems like a very small window by the time the next season rolls around. But yeah, it'll be a lot of fun when that, and obviously all the payoff will come there. And to your point of like engaging all these characters, I think that it has to be a streamlined story. I mean, if they're going to do some kind of time manipulation and parallel timelines and manipulating the past, they really need to get to it stat. Like, I do not want to see them twiddle their thumbs or have some flashback to like have a whole entire bottle episode of like what happened in the post office in some other place. Although we definitely want to see flashbacks to what happened with Dylan for sure. But who knows how far back Alex is manipulating things in the timeline. That's the other crazy thing about it. So Alex, supposedly, Sinatra is confident that Alex is actually setting things in place to be able to prevent the caldera from erupting. And if we're going to buy in that it is that the caldera erupted because of the ice melting, so Xavier's going to be able to travel through time and prevent global warming. Is she going to get? Is Al Gore going to win the election? Is that what's going to happen?
It goes back that far, yeah. I still think that Alex is the reason for the caldera happening for some reason. That makes sense to me. But I don't want to get to the end of the season and the caldera hasn't happened and everybody's happy families and then none of it really happened at all. I would still like to see an end of the world scenario and they fix something. I don't know.
That's what's problematic about it, though, is that's what doesn't, again, hopefully they have a satisfying conclusion to this, but that's my concern is that how are you going to make like an anti-caldera machine or something? Because if a caldera erupts and you could imagine a scenario where, for example, they save Paradise. They could have done that right now. They're just some minor tweaks. As a matter of fact, the meltdown in Paradise was orchestrated by the AI, right? For some greater, presumably, to get that in the hands of Xavier and then head to the other bunker. It seems to be the case. And there's a bunch of numbers and codes on there, which apparently mean something to the AI. So I'm not sure how that's going to pay off. But the broader point is we found out this season that and they didn't need to overcomplicate this, by the way, that not only did the caldera erupt and now everyone's kind of surviving it, the remaining survivors of whatever 10 or 20% of the world population, that which could be enough to rebuild the civilization, but that there's going to be some kind of Venus syndrome that's going to end all of humanity. Like it's going to boil all the oceans, right? So it's like, well, that's not survivable, obviously. So yeah, how exactly is this thing going to be able to undo all of that? It's going to have to go travel back in time to, I don't know, like you're going to have to go back and like kill the person who found oil or something.
Completely forgot about that whole Venus scenario that they dropped quite early and then forgot about. So many questions, Victor. The mind boggles. I would have liked a few more answers, to be honest, at the end of this season.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to have a little something more. Yeah, anything else you wanted to touch on? I did like when Tim Redmond, I think that's her husband's name, is out there and feeling the sun on his skin. The only one who stops to appreciate that. Wow, we're back outside again. Everybody's just like, oh my God, get the hell out of here. With their bags, did they have go bags ready to go all the time? I mean, maybe they did, actually. I shouldn't mock that. Like maybe that's just like part of it is just like, hey, you guys have to have a go bag going all the time just in case of an emergency. Like in the old days when you had, the fear of nuclear war and you'd have to have like everybody's got to have their shelter ready in the basement in case there's a nuclear bomb goes off.
Well, some of those families had too many go bags, and the Tarabi was not happy with that, so she chucked them all out of the car just to fit some more people in the car. I thought that was a little bit cheesy, but yeah, I mean, you have to have. How frightening would it be? I mean, you're in this bunker because you think the entire world is uninhabitable, and all of a sudden you need to evacuate, and you have no idea what's out there. I mean, that's terrifying. So I thought they tried to convey that quite well, but yeah, I wasn't the hot husband. He's done nothing in 2 seasons, so yeah, I'm not on board with him at all.
Yeah, I guess I'll reunite with his son, maybe, if he's not going to recognize him either, I guess, but all remains to be seen.
That would be interesting.
Or maybe he would. That's another thing I hadn't even thought about. What if there's a version of Dylan who had the father, but like maybe Sinatra died or something, so he will see the dad and be like, oh my God, Dad, what is going on?
That's who we'll recognize. That's a good idea.
Not his sister, though. But then again, he hasn't seen her in a little while. So anyway.
I think there was quite a large age gap between those two, I think.
Oh my God. The internet was going crazy about the fact that they're like, okay, Dylan is how old in the Sinatra flashback? And the sister is only a few years younger. I think that's the casting the actress to not be as young as she's probably supposed to be. But I think that's probably what's happening there. Plus, I'm sure they didn't calculate exactly what the gap would be between them, although they're approximately like 10, maybe 9 or 10 years apart, which seems unlikely that the girl in the flashback when Sinatra is remembering the son's death, that girl is supposed to be 3 years old. I'm like, that girl's not 3. She's like 8 or 9. I don't think that's a 3-year-old. But
it's
hey,
things like that you process that internally. You don't really think about it, but I do remember that flashback, and I remember them being not that far apart. Yeah. It seemed, and that just sticks in your brain somewhere. That's why people get amped about that, because they lay the tracks and then they just figure them out later.
And we've seen those kids, the same child actors, in photos around the house, and again, they don't seem to be that far apart. Maybe 5 or 6 years apart, max, which then makes it hard to believe if the kid was 12 and the daughter was 7. How are they like? And that's the funniest thing, by the way, on the internet. People are going like, oh, because when he was traveling in time, that like he didn't age, or he showed up at the same age. And I'm like, no, it's 26 years old. He was born 26 years ago in both timelines. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, we'll see if they could rationalize that, because it doesn't make any sense.
It certainly doesn't, but I did like Link he plays a good role. He's impressing me every week, so hopefully he's going to have much more to do in the 3rd season.
Oh, I think he's going to be very important to the next season, considering he built this technology, so he's going to be most familiar with it. And Xavier, of course, going in there, maybe because of his incredible cardio that he can. Alex knows that's the one I need. That was the joke I made, by the way, in my solo recap, that I'm like, well, it had to be X that was the person to get the key card to do this, because it's not going to be Sinatra. Who's got the cardio to get out of it, to escape in time? Only this guy's going to be able to run out of there in time.
Exactly. As you say, he just runs that route all the time. That's his daily job.
That's right. All right. So that is a very fun season of the show and silly, just like last season, and many mysteries left to be seen, but silly in an entertaining way. Of course, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. It's part of the charm of the show. But very humane, right? We've said this before that, all these apocalyptic shows, these people actually try to rescue each other instead of being like The Walking Dead, where it's like, oh, I think I twisted my ankle. And they just immediately shoot them in the head going, they're dead weight. So this is a very, very different version of that. Oh, one more comedic beat here, which I thought was, I guess, trying to be telling as well, where everybody's like, the whole place is going to melt down and everyone's going to die. We should evacuate it. And the board members are like, Sinatra's going to be so mad. I'm not going to okay that. I'm like, sure, stay here and die. Okay, that's a good idea. I guess it's telling that they're trying to say like how afraid of Sinatra they are, but also how like incapable they are of making a decision on their own.
I'm interested in what actually a meltdown is and how quickly it does occur. I mean, I was thinking back to the Fukushima power plant, which was melting down, but I felt like a meltdown, it's not like suddenly it explodes. Like I feel like it's a much slower kind of thing that you can escape if you need to. But yeah, I'm not too sure about that.
Well, I think more of what was happening there, like you think about when the Fukushima power plant exploded and those cores were submerged, but still there is radiation in the immediate vicinity. I think in this particular case, that's what I was thinking also, was that it's not that they can just walk outside and be okay. If that thing explodes and the vents are open, all that radiation is going to go out. And it's not that the people would immediately like blow up and die. It's that they're all going to, not all of them, but most of them are going to get sick. And you're going to have to be far away from there to not get impacted by some of this radiation. So it's not like they would die immediately, but most of those people would probably get very sick in a pretty short order.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So yeah, conveniently like the whole mountain came down on top of it.
Yes, and because the blast shields, if they keep out, which is not how that works, by the way. Like an egg can hold in a huge amount of weight because it's its curved structure. It's like an arch basically. So you can put a lot. You've seen those videos where you can put like 25 pounds on top of one egg, but that's not how this doesn't work from the inside out. Like a bird, the chick inside can pop the egg open from the inside with just its beak. So it doesn't work both ways, people. Yeah. But again, we'll allow it. We'll allow it.
We allow so much with this show.
That's so much to allow. They did apparently consult with a quantum physicist about some of that quantum theory, but some of the basic physics, I don't know if they had anybody consulting. Like how gravity works, how calderas work. I don't know if that's been fully explained by everybody. All right, Darren. So next week I'm traveling. You get the week off. But,
oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah. So I'll be in Florida. So but we'll catch up afterwards. Next week, we'll take the week off, like I mentioned. But the following week, DTF wraps up and Euphoria, episode 1.
Ooh, yep. Keen for that.
So I'll be doing the usual recap for DTF with Sona, and then probably the same night, we'll have our usual recording schedule, and we'll talk about your opinions on that wrap-up, plus the first episode of Euphoria, which we'll see how, I'm not 100% bought in that I'm going to be here for the entire season of Euphoria, but I think it's going to be worth talking about at least the phenomena of Euphoria and how season 1 and season 2, how that worked. The Idol, by the way, is officially in the universe they're in the same shared universe, by the way. So maybe The Weeknd will pop up in season 3.
Don't ruin the show for me before it's even started, please.
So we'll see. Well, I'm sure we'll, like I said, minimally those early episodes. And of course, this week, Your Friends and Neighbors is coming back. So many things, Darren, so many things. And maybe if you want to finish, something really bad is going to happen, and we can discuss that a little bit as well.
Great. Yeah, okay. 2 weeks off. Happy Easter. Enjoy your travels.
Thank you. Same to you.
Cheers, Victor. Thanks, mate. Bye.